Welcome, everyone, to Ladder Daily Digest. We honor creators, and we have with us today kind of a creative person who goes and what do you call it? Not protesting at temples.
Give out information at the temple open house and witness at the temple open house.
And so how many temples have you done this to?
Let's see, I've been to a total of 12 temples. I have not witnessed at all of them. So I would say maybe 8.
Do you remember your first one?
Yes, that was 2016 in Fort Collins, Colorado.
Okay. So that was nearby.
Yes, that was about an hour away from my house.
Let's give a little background about you. You were born in Colorado and raised there?
Born and raised in Colorado. I grew up in a Christian household. We didn't go to church too much, but my parents always talked about Jesus and God, and I saw that my parents were different, and I had some anger problems, and I wanted to know why they were so different, and I asked why they were different, and they sat me down and they explained to me exactly who Jesus was and what the gospel is and what I need to do in order to be forgiven of my sins. And I was under 10 years old or so, and I accepted Jesus as my Lord and Savior. And then it was probably a few years later that I started searching just on my own things to know that the Bible is true, such thing as archaeological evidence or manuscript evidence. And that's when I came to the real conclusion that was true. And I knew that I had to keep studying it and keep learning more about it.
So you sought out confirming evidence.
Yes.
To what you just believe sort of in your heart or as a feeling or something like that.
Yeah, you could say that maybe.
Let's see. You're about 35 or something?
33.
And so your first time doing it was about 8 years ago. And so you would have been 25.
Yep.
Did you do any junior college or anything like that?
I did go to college, and I got a degree in business administration with a minor in accounting, and I did have an online business for a while. But long story short is it had to shut down because of conflict of interest with my dad, because a business was buying a business that my dad was working for, and we couldn't be working for the same company and selling the same products. And so my business had to go out of business in order for my dad to be one of the sales representatives. That was 2018 or 19, and that was really a sign for me to go, that I need to go in full-time ministry of reaching out to people that need to hear the gospel.
Okay, so you don't get paid to go on this full-time ministry at all?
I do not get paid.
And then you either provide your own funds or you ask for donations to help?
That is correct.
And what's the name of the group that you do it for?
I'm with a ministry called Haven Ministries, and the website is havenministry.com.
We'll make this full screen if I can figure out how to do it. And so this is in front of what temple?
This would be the one in Pittsburgh that was just in August, so just a few months ago. And I went with my friend Steve Daly, who runs the Bible Museum. It was formerly called the Nauvoo Christian Visitors Center. And then this is with my friends Eric Johnson, who's part of Mormonism Research Ministry, and then another friend named Robert. Eric is the one that started the sacredorsecret.com website in the newspapers.
Is he wearing the hat?
Yes, he's the one that's wearing the hat.
And so he's pretty much in charge of every temple trip?
Every temple trip. I've only done one temple trip without him, and that was in Pittsburgh.
So there's the sign. What's to the bottom right of this? Are those
the bottom right? That'd probably just be some of my stuff that I'm just personal stuff that I might hand out.
You hand out things, so you're here handing out a newspaper.
Yep. And that one was personally made by Steve Daly, and that was specific for the one in Pittsburgh. And that one was about 16 pages or so.
And in the background is the security forces for the LDS Church.
Yes.
And they are making sure stuff. And so you guys are on public roads there?
Yes, we're always on public property. I will say the first thing, though, that we do before we get there is that we will take a tour of the temple and we watch the videos. We don't ask any questions. We're not trying to be disruptive on their property. And we may talk with the missionary, just ask some basic questions, not real difficult questions at all, as that's not our intent to be disruptive. And then after that is when we go onto the public property.
Right, because you will do the tours, and then
Yes.
just like anybody else can, and then you go on the public property where you have your signage and your handouts, and you guys aren't the kind that shout anybody down. You're very law abiding and courteous of everybody.
Yeah, we hold up the sign, and then some temples are people drive through, and some temples are where people walk from the stake center up to the temple. And so for the people that are walking, we say, "Hey, would you like a newspaper?" And they may say yes or no. And then also for the ones we try to get the people that are coming out that are parking inside the temple property.
Okay, and so can you sort of tell who is, we'll say, a non-Mormon that's attending to see what the inside of a temple looks like compared to a Mormon, a local Mormon who's coming to see what their tithing dollars are going towards, we'll say? Can you tell the difference usually?
Yes.
And what are the different characteristics that either they look like or that the way they act?
For how they act?
Yeah, or how they look. How do you determine?
Well, for the last one, there were some. We were in a group of Catholics, and they were like, "Oh my goodness, wow, this is just spectacular, and it's just awesome." And wow, they go through that, and it was a small group, and so, and then it was Eric at Steve at one of the temples asked them if they were LDS, and he said, "No, we're Catholic, but we're just nearby." And so that's why they came, and they said they had a lot of questions about the temple.
And so Eric said, "Well, I have some information about the temple
Yes.
that maybe wasn't given to you during the tour."
Yes.
Okay. And so what do Mormons do when they walk by?
When Mormons walk by, many will ignore us. If they're walking by, some may yell something, and we only get less than 30 seconds, and so we may say something to them. And also we have a book called The Miracle of Forgiveness that you may recognize, which is an LDS book by the prophet Spencer W. Kimball, and we hand it out. The reason we like to hand it out is to show the bad news that's in this book. Then we like to show them what the good news is of the gospel. And my friend Eric, he buys the books and he highlights everything in there. And we want them to read that, especially the younger generations, because they don't have it. And we give it to them for free. And then after that, we share the good news on a piece of paper that Eric puts in there. And there's a website he can go to, or the individual can go to, and go look at what the good news is.
We'll bring up the website. So do you hand out, so the newspaper has the location of the website, and do you also hand out like business cards or something smaller that has the website on it, or is it just
No, we hand out actual newspapers that are full newspapers.
Mm-hmm.
And that's what the PDF newspaper is right there that we hand out.
And so what temple is this that's being displayed right here?
I do not know.
Yeah, I don't recognize it. It looks like a South American kind of a style, almost like a Catholic sort of building.
Yes.
And so they go to this page, and What are you hoping that they see on this website first?
Well, we want to make it very clear that we are not LDS. So if you scroll down, if you're able to do that,
I
is
think
that
you have to do it.
okay? I have to do that.
So you can go to that tab and then scroll and talk, and it'll just be up.
All right. And so we welcome, we're welcome to an evangelical Christian website written by concerned Christians who have, who are concerned about the Latter-day Saint people. You may have been redirected from sacred or secret.com. So seeing our website at the temple, and then we just have some
There's a bunch of
information.
articles on the left-hand side for different topics.
Yes, that is, but that's not necessarily related to the temple. Just
Right.
other things related to Mormonism.
I see. Am I looking at the gospel topics essays?
Yes, and they've written a Mormonism Research Ministry has written things about that. So those are just other things that they do. And
so if you press on that link, it'll go to the article that you guys provide.
yes, if you go to the PDF newspaper and click
the
on
PDF
it,
newspaper, okay.
that we hand out, and right here on the temple's temple guide, we make it very clear it's not an LDS publication. And why build temples? And then we let them know what our purpose is. We give the example of LDS missionaries going on missions. Are they hateful, or do they truly believe what they believe, and they're out there and want people to be part of the LDS church?
So you're very kind to the missionaries?
Yes. We're giving an example that we want to be like the LDS missionaries, that we don't have any ill intent. And on the side here from some of the general authorities, we have some quotes such as, take up the Bible, compare the religion of the Latter-day Saints with it, and see if it stands the test of time. And there's some other quotes by their leaders that have said, test the LDS faith. And that's exactly what we do.
Right. So you're saying prophets in the past have said, hey, test us.
Yes. And
Compare.
it's the LDS leaders that have said it.
Right. And so you're just saying, this is how you can do it. We're going to
Yes.
help you with that task.
Yes. And then we go into the differences between the temple in the Bible and then the modern LDS temples. Let's see. There's some Bible verses that are given here, such as priests serving in the temple had to come from the tribe of Levi, while most of the people in the LDS church come from the tribe of Ephraim. So they can't even be in the temple at all if they're going to be biblical and they're going to restore biblical Christianity or primitive Christianity.
There you go. And Mormons will probably say, well, we have modern prophets and modern revelation that make it okay.
Mm-hmm.
And so you're just saying, well, Brigham Young said to compare with the Bible. So we're just showing you what the Bible says versus that.
Yes. And then like here is a big one is no weddings. There's no talk of weddings in the temple in the Bible. And then over here, marriage for time and eternity. Of course, sealings with that, sealings with family for time and eternity. The Holy of Holies, was only entered one time a year by the high priest from the tribe of Levi before Jesus came. Here, the Salt Lake Temple has a Holy of Holies, but with an entirely different purpose. And seeking familiar spirits is expressly prohibited. And what familiar spirits are is it's really necromancy, which is talking with the dead, or wanting someone that you want to talk to. Such one example in the Bible is how Saul from the Old Testament wanted to talk with Samuel, who already passed away. So he goes, sees the witch of Endor, and he does talk with Samuel and that's what led to Samuel dying and the rest of his family dying.
Wow.
And we know I think that's 2 Samuel 28. Please don't quote me on that one. No. And so as as Latter-day Saints, they do a lot of works for the dead, and they have many talkings about the dead coming and visiting them. And so, that's not really biblical to be talking to spirits that have already passed away.
And what does that next page say?
And we have different people from different ministries that have wrote different articles. And this is Rob Savolka who has a website, mormoninfo.org, how to determine truth. Right here, he says, quotes, test all things and hold fast to which is true. And he also points out Deuteronomy 13, 1-5, which shows to point out what is a false prophet. And
so we could just look at a little bit more, and then we'll go back to talking about other things.
Yes. And then here, in the LDS temple, like right here, Lucifer's role in the Mormon temple, what he has to do with Adam and Eve. And, when you go on an LDS temple tour, it's a silent tour. And so you're not going to get much information. They usually have a placard and they say, this occurs here. And maybe once in a while, you may have an individual say, this occurs here. If you have any questions, please go see the missionaries after the end of the tour. But they don't go into depth of what actually occurs inside the temple.
And so do you guys also talk about that there's been changes in the temple ordinances?
Let's see. I don't recall that on this one, on this newspaper, but probably in conversations, we definitely would. And of course, the main part is sacred or secret. We do believe many things inside the LDS church are sacred, but we also believe many of the things are secret, such as things they won't tell you, the Masonic handshakes or the new names that they given. And, it's just really, other LDS members won't even talk about it. And Richard Bushman here at the end, who's LDS, he has a great quote. He says, while members claim that the Mormon temples are sacred, not secret, Bushman said that temples are secret, plain and simple, noting that even members don't even speak to each other about it. And that's from a Deseret News article.
That's right. And most people's experience that I know is that there's a training that they call temporal preparation class that you go through for a few months prior to going to the temple. And almost everybody says that it did not prepare them for what they were gonna see. So I'll remove that and I'll put us back up onto the main screen there.
Okay.
And another thing that Trevor was able to secure a position at the Denver Public Library.
Yes, that is correct. I'm a volunteer there, and I found out through my friend Steve Daly when I was in Nauvoo in 2022 that there was an original edition of the Book of Mormon there. And so I put it off for a few months, and then to see if there really was a Book of Mormon. Then one day I called up and I saw an original edition in October 2022, and I was looking at it for about an hour, and the librarian at the time's like, he said, no one's ever taken this long to look at the Book of Mormon. I was looking at specific pages for specific reasons. The librarian holds it out on, and he takes very good care of it. And he or she will flip the pages for you.
Are they wearing gloves or anything when they're doing that?
You do not need to wear gloves. You just need to wash your hands and make sure that your hands are dry.
And so that's the 1830 edition?
1830 edition. I've seen there's any reason between 500 and 700 left. I was able to track down how this Book of Mormon got most likely from the Palmyra area to the Denver Public Library.
Okay.
And I've written I think it was about 6 pages on that, and the Denver Public Library needs to upload that.
Okay. So you'll be published
Yes, and then so my job there is I go through Mormon books. I see what condition it is. Is it bad condition, good condition? Is there any inscriptions in the book? I also check. There's a website called WorldCat, short for catalog. How many other libraries have this book? And then I also see what a replacement cost would be for the book, and I usually use Abe Books or eBay for that, depending on the worth, or then I might find out anything interesting about the book. If there was a book that was published, I don't know, in 1840 or something, if I can find a newspaper article where this person says this book is full of it and not true, I would put that as an interesting what some people thought of it at the time. And these books are written by Mormons, and some of these books are critical of Mormonism. And I do that. I do not say that I'm a Mormon, a Christian, or whatever it is. I just put the facts in there about the book that makes it interesting.
Right. And so
And so,
you add a description for like the Denver Public Library's catalog sort of system, their online catalog system or something.
yes.
And you've been doing that for how long now?
Let's see. I started that in 2023.
And did you have another project too, where it was like another version of the Book of Mormon that was there that you tried to find out who used to own it or something like that? Or was that the original book that you're just talking about?
That was the only one that I did work.
Okay.
There was an 1888 Book of Mormon, and that was signed by Joseph F. Smith, and it said presented to S.K. Hooker, and it said Salt Lake City, 1909 or 1905. And I was to determine most likely the individual was a railroad person in Utah and Colorado.
Trevor also has a lot of Mormon books in his own collection. Do you know about how many books you have?
I got a lot, and I don't have much space. I would love more books, though.
Yeah. So you were gifted some books somewhere recently?
Yes, I've been I've been gifted many books. I've been gifted the Journal of Discourses, Church of the History. Let's see, I'm looking over here just to the left. Comprehensive History of the Church, Mormon Doctrine, and then a lot of these other books I have bought myself.
Right. You buy some books and then you put the word out, and some people give you books knowing that you're interested. All right. Well, thanks, Trevor, for coming on our show and giving people a little insight on what it's like to hand out information in front of temples. Do you ever see also other people who are actually protesting?
I have seen some people out there that are yelling and are rude, and we do talk with them. We want to let them know we want this to be a very peaceful event, and that's what we're hoping it to be. And of course, it's their decision whether they want to preach loud or not, or say you're going to hell or whatever it is.
Right. So you try to be a calming influence to others that are
Yes.
a little bit louder,
Hmm.
because you feel that that's not a very good way. And so
Yes.
you say people will listen to you if you're more respectful.
Yes, and we've had a lot of the people that are doing security or having the cars, or they have a car come in, let's say every 10 minutes. We get to start talking with the people that are at the temples. Usually, it's find out where they're from. Do they have any hobbies? Or have they served a mission? Just things like that. Do they have any kids? And then we will also talk to them about the gospel if they want. And sometimes we may never even hear a peep from that individual.
Right. And you guys have like a little training where you know where the boundaries are, where the
Yeah.
private property is and where the public
Yes.
property is, and you have rules of conduct. I suppose you've been on how many different ones?
I've
8.
been 8 or so that I've actually witnessed at.
So you pretty much know all the basic instructions, but every temple has its own little different lines of property lines and where the public places are.
Yep, it depends on the temple. Like some temples, the people or some of the security may came out and say, "Hey, glad to have you here. You're welcome to come in, have some food, or if you need to use the restroom." Or then the other or some others are, "All right, I'm dialing 911," and the police
Because you're
show up.
trespassing.
Yes, because we're trespassing. We get both.
Right. And so, yeah, it's just interesting. It's almost like they say that there's bishop roulette. And so you never know if you're going to get a hard ass, we'll say, or somebody who's kind and friendly, right?
Mm-hmm.
And just knows that you're allowed to do your job. You're allowed to speak freely in public to people. I mean, my understanding is missionaries 100, 150 years ago would go and start preaching on street corners, right? It's almost no different than you're basically a missionary for Christ in a different way.
Yes.
Yeah. And so, well, thanks, Trevor, for coming on the show. I've known Trevor for a couple years, right?
Yes.
Some good talks. I donated to one of his trips, and Trevor sent me a newspaper, I think, and or at least a thank you letter for my donation. Trevor's just on Facebook. Oh, and one other cool thing is, who's that guy from the office that you talked to?
Rainn Wilson, who plays Dwight Schrute on The Office.
So, and Rainn is a Baha'i.
Yes.
And he has a talk show, and you called in and you got to talk to him.
Yes, I did. He had a show that's for a while. I don't think it's playing anymore, but it was called Metaphysical Milkshake, and it was with a Muslim named Reza Aslan, and I just put in a question, and I was picked, and I was on the show for maybe less than 5 minutes.
That's right. I'll try to provide a link in the description if people want to go and see it, because I think it's probably still up, even if he doesn't do the show anymore.
Yes, and it's at the very end of the show.
Yeah, so we can timestamp it, I think, pretty well, so people can just go straight to your question. All right, everybody have a great new year. We're in the new year now, and doesn't seem any different than last year so far. I can't find a difference. Can you?
I've lost some weight.
Well, that's good.
The difference.
Yeah. All right, then. Thanks for watching, everybody. Bye-bye.
All right. Thank you very much, Gene, for having me on.
Yeah, it's fun.